What a difference a half makes, again, for Michigan. Welcome in, Michigan basketball postgame live following Michigan's game in College Park against Maryland, and Michigan remains winless here in 2024. Welcome in. Thanks for being with us. We're here after every Michigan basketball game. We'll talk about this one. Michigan going with their without their point guard Doug McDaniel in this one, so they had a different starting five. Game number 16 on the season. Michigan trying to snap a 4-game slide. They would have to do it without Doug McDaniel, their starting point guard. He is serving a 6-game academic suspension that began tonight against the Terps. We'll have more on that in a moment. Michigan was having a tough time advancing the ball early going in this one without their point guard, who leads the team in minutes played and also leads the Big Ten in minutes played. But Michigan flipped things around in the latter portion of the first half, and they started attacking the press, and it worked. And the Wolverines were up by a dozen at the half, 33-21. But the second half, it was you want to say it? All right, I will. Deja vu all over again for the Wolverines as they coughed up their double-digit lead Sunday against Penn State at the Palestra, and they did it again. The Terps taking the lead with 8 minutes left in this one, and then down the stretch, taking a look, it was a 3-point game with 2 minutes to go. Jalen Llewellyn misses the front end of a 1-and-1. That's never good, but especially not good late in the game. And then you had TW2 missing a post jumper. I mean, it was a good move. It was a good shot. It just came up short. That was with 90 seconds left. It was still a 3-point game at that point. You had a then Namari Burnett. They went to Burnett twice, and he got blocked twice out of bounds. And then that was pretty much it. Michigan fouled Maryland. They knocked down their free throws. TW2 then with another late opportunity took a drive, and it looked like his shot got blocked, and that's it. And it adds up to a 64-57 victory for Maryland. So Michigan loses this one by 7. A little bit predictable, and the odds makers had Maryland as a 6.5-point favorite. They win it by 7. Michigan struggling without McDaniel. They also did not have Trey Jackson in this one, so it was going to be a short bench, and it was. And could you say that Michigan ran out of gas? This was a tale of the 3-ball. Michigan in the first half, they're knocking down. Michigan knocks 5 triples down in the first half where they had their 12-point lead. Meanwhile, Maryland, 1 of 11 from downtown. That changed. Michigan did not make a 3-pointer in the second half in this game. And meanwhile, there were 6 made in the second half by the Terps. Completely different. Now, Michigan had turnover problems in the first half. They did clean that up in the second half. If you're looking for that silver lining, not as many turnovers, very few turnovers in the second half. But, this team without McDaniel, it takes a lot of energy to just run your offense, to be able to break pressure. And teams know, I mean, with Doug McDaniel, Michigan doesn't really have that second ball handler. Jalen Llewellyn is coming back from the knee injury. He looks like he's coming back from a knee injury. It's just not there. I mean, that's not his fault. That's where it's at. Michigan did not use their extra scholarship or a scholarship that was available for either a shooter or a ball handler. That goes back to the head coach. And so that's where they sit, and they're hamstrung when it comes down to it. Now, I can sit around and complain, and so could you. I mean, and it's just, I was going to say weird, but, it's been an unconventional season for Michigan. What coach would go into the season knowing that they have an issue? I know it and you know it. What coach would go in and not use a scholarship? And I know that they were trying to take dudes from like, northern, southern California or some, crazy schools that I had never even heard of, trying to, find guys in the transfer portal. But it almost feels like they could go down to the community college and find somebody that could, provide some ball handling or a spot up shooter. And they elected not to do that. Bad move. Can we all say it together? And then there was nothing, there's nothing Juwan Howard can do about his health situation, and where he had to miss a portion of the first half of the season. You get that, but you don't have your leader. But then with Howard back, they have this off the court situation that is a mess with their strength and conditioning coach. He's no longer with the team, or he hasn't been since whatever you want to call it, verbal dust up with the head coach. That's a problem, as you know. And now this deal with Doug McDaniel. Now, Doug McDaniel, this is a coach's decision. I have never, and nobody else has either. Robbie Hummel played in the Big Ten. He mentioned it. I've heard a half dozen other commentators mention it. They've never seen this type of suspension. Certainly, we have seen academic suspensions before, but not in the middle of the season where you're like, you're good at home, but you're going to be suspended on the road. What? So, I mean, I don't know. What do you want me to say? That's unconventional. But when you stack it up to the verbal dust up and not having your strength and conditioning coach, Juwan trying, hey, what are they doing? Back at the Palestra, Phil Martelli, you go ahead. You're the coach. I'm just going to sit over here. What? So, that's the stuff that's been going on. The team now, 2 straight games, they look like one team in the first half, and then, they don't look very good in the second half. So they look good in the first half. They get double-digit leads, and then they cough them up in the second half. So there's none of that. Nothing positive that you pull out of this one. What, that they didn't commit that many turnovers in the second half. They look like some semblance of a basketball team being able to bring the ball up. It's not like Maryland. In fact, Maryland is one of the worst teams in the Big Ten. Them in Michigan, and it's a struggle. I do think we are at the point where almost all of the fans see that this looks like it's coming to a close this year. Will the athletic director see that? There's a lot of basketball to be played still, but that seems to me like it's the top story with the fans, the status of Juwan Howard, and will he be coaching for the team next year? And look, Juwan Howard might not like it, nobody else, but this is part of the business. And when you do a bunch of things where we don't have answers, we have to guess about what's going on with the strength and conditioning coach, and your son had a part in it or whatever else. You're not talking about it. You're suspending a guy in, this bizarre just for the road game situation. None of it is adding up here for Juwan Howard. And what is happening out on the floor is the team looks terrible. And so this thing is headed in one direction, and I don't see it turning around anytime soon. Who would? I mean, what's going to be the bright spot here? During the game, the future Tigers TV announcer, Jason Benetti, was there with Robbie Hummel calling the game. And those guys were semi-entertaining. I say semi. They were entertaining because this one was disjointed in a lot of different ways. And these guys were like pretty much like, whoa, what are we watching here? But, they did their best to entertain the audience. And I thought they did a good job. But at one point, Benetti was asking Hummel about, well, how do you get things going if you're Juwan Howard and you're the head coach and you don't have your point guard on the road for the next 6 games, but you have him at home? And Hummel, he just shrugged his shoulders and he said, I don't know. I don't know what you do because nobody knows. And so Do I think that it's time to break out the coaching list of the possibilities? I do think it's time for that. That's where it's at right now. That will be forthcoming for me in the games ahead on the post game, and that's where it's at. It's not something that I like doing. It's not something that you like, but that is just where it is at with this team. Nobody has any answers, and the direction. Look, I've gone over this. Michigan's this is Juwan Howard's fifth year. The first year was a season where it was COVID. Michigan would have made the NCAA tournament. He did a nice job in his first year. I liked what I saw in the first year. His second year was very good. Not just okay, very good. They won the Big Ten. They were very entertaining. Everything, all of the levers that you want were in the right place. The coaching staff, Howard, the way the team played, they ran through the Big Ten, winning the conference, as I said, and then they had 3 shots in the final minute to beat UCLA to go to the Final Four. I mean, that's how good of a season it was. Now, the third year, the regular season was not good, but they had a couple big wins late. Think about down at Ohio State without Hunter Dickinson, and they made the tournament, which is good. And then they won 2 games, which is pretty good. So we go from good to very good to okay, nice. And that's 3 years in. But last year was a big step back, a big disappointment for this team. You're supposed to make the tournament last year with the kind of team that they had, but they didn't have the chemistry and they couldn't win close games. That has continued into this year. And if last year was a step back, this year would I say it's a disaster? Yeah, I would. I would say at this point, as we sit here right now, with the off the court situation, with the strength and conditioning coach, that's a self-inflicted wound by the head coach. These are the guys that are your best allies. Your very best ally. I mean, you have a lot to deal with. It's a real pressure cooker and everything else. And I get the health situation, but you've got your allies, your staff, the guys that are closest to you, your assistants, your strength and conditioning coach, and now you have a verbal dust up where that is a huge distraction. And they're not saying anything about it. He's just not with the team anymore. That's BS. And, you get what, you reap what you sow when it comes down to that. And his son apparently was at the front of that situation. The son that you gave a scholarship to that no other Power 5 team would have. If somebody wanted to say, that sounds like nepotism, you know what I would say? You're right. That is what it sounds like. And if you're doing well as a basketball team and you bring your son in and give him a scholarship, and either the team is doing well or he's doing well, you say, hey, well, look, no matter what it looked like, it worked out for you. But guess what? The team isn't doing any good, and that dude hasn't even sniffed the floor. I guess he's hurt. And maybe that had the misunderstanding. He was at the front of it with the strength and conditioning coach. But I don't know. It's all speculation. Not quite speculation, because that's what Jace was quoted as saying. That's where we're at. Let's look at the box score. Look at some of the feedback as well from you Michigan fans. Some you watch the games. Blue checking in. I think Blue. It's always nice to see either a Maze or a Blue on the post-game show. Blue is saying the timing the firing of Howard to optimize the hiring process is what matters most right now. I don't disagree with that, Blue. So this is where, And I have been, I don't know, like if you're either a detractor or a supporter of Ward Manuel, the Michigan AD, I would be put in the latter category. I would have been put as a supporter. Now, it's not quite that, but if it's one of those two, I would be in the latter category. This is Ward Manuel, the guy he hired. This is his baby. I know he has the situation, what's going on. We don't know what's going on with Jim Harbaugh. Like whatever he can do. He's offered him the moon and the stars. And if he comes back, that's great. And really, that's all anybody cares about, anyways. But you do have other sports like basketball. And that was Ward's hire. So will he act quickly? He has not. The critics would point out he has moved at a snail's pace when it comes down to some other hires and maneuvering. Do I feel confident that Ward Manuel will position Michigan as what Blue is talking about to optimize the hiring process? I do not. But let's see about that. Oh, it being called a dumpster fire on the feedback. Blue is back, and he is talking about firing Howard now and let Martelli try to run it in an interim situation. I do not think that is going to happen. And look, as much as I have just gone over the issues and everything with Juwan Howard, you are not taking a coach out during the season. Not a coach that played here, not a coach that has, unless he had some sort of situation where, an off the court situation. As much as I don't like the Sanderson situation, divorces, things happen with relationships. It's hurt the team. It's one of your allies. It's really, not, obviously it's not helped. But the point is, I don't think that is going to happen, right? So, would it be possible that Juwan would resign? Well, you don't get your money if you resign. So, could they come to some sort of an agreement? And at some point, hey, I don't know. Like, I was just going to say, like, hey, you could say, it's the health situation. And then, he's stepping down. And that could not really be it. That could happen just between those that are watching right now and me. Now, like, I'm not, like, that could happen. But, I mean, if you're looking for Howard not to be the head coach, unless they go play somewhere where Phil Martelli is going to be the head coach, and Howard wants to sit down. Maybe he'll put Isley over there. And Isley, if they played Boston College, they go back out east. Or no, I mean, what are we talking about? No, I don't think it's going to be where you fire the coach during the season. Michigan Go Blue 1234 has checked in. He says, "Let's see JJ and Roman out there on the court instead." Well, you laugh about that. And then 1 minute into the game, Jason Benetti, the future Tigers TV announcer, is talking about maybe putting JJ McCarthy out there. So, JJ, they're looking for the ability to break the press. I don't know if Roman Wilson is going to the Senior Bowl. He's headed to the draft. He hasn't made that declaration yet, but it's, the writing seems to be on the wall before Monday that he will be heading to the pros. But so he's not going to, go play basketball. He's got other things to worry about. The national championship wide receiver for the Wolverines. But yeah, he could help. Like I said, moving forward, I will put together a short and long list for potential Michigan basketball coaches. Mr. Smith is saying the team isn't losing because Howard got into it with the strength and conditioning coach. Come on now. you're reaching. It's been one of the issues. Now, I would say if you were pressing me and on that, I would say that you're right. Heading into this season, I did not think that this team was going to be an NCAA tournament team. So you're right about that, Mr. Smith. Meanwhile, and nobody could predict the health situation and how that has impacted the team not having Howard. But not having Howard, you can't say, well, that was a positive for this team. And then right after that is when they did have this situation with your ally in the strength and conditioning coach. That hasn't helped. And that situation involved his son, which he's using a scholarship. That hasn't helped. They didn't use a scholarship that they had available. They were going after the Argentinian player that never materialized. That has not helped. Doug McDaniel not being able to do it with the books has not helped. Coming up with this weird, unconventional suspension that nobody's ever seen and how that works with a team, that has not helped, Mr. Smith. So, yeah, I'm reaching. It was not a good team. It was not a good team to begin with. And none of this other stuff, Mr. Smith, has helped. So that's where I'm at with it. Is there a chance that Sonny Washington could take over? I would put him on the list. Isley, Washington, I would put on there. Do I think that Michigan fans, I like Sonny Washington. But Sonny Washington has been part of this. Man, I saw him cheering on the team in the last couple minutes in the huddle. But is that going to inspire any Michigan fans? Any recruit? That doesn't really. That's not hitting very hard. But I would put him on the list certainly. All right, I said I was going to get to the box score, and let's do that now. Let's look at how it all went down. Olivier Kamwa, 18 points, 7 board, and 2 assists for the big man from Finland, 8 of 16 from the floor. TW2, I like, TW2 has done it. He's a bright spot with this team going back. The DMV area, they going back home. That had to be tough for Doug with this game tonight. TW2 with 10 points. Jalen Llewellyn gets the start, hasn't played very much at all, and he was in there for the majority of the game. He had to be. And Mr. Llewellyn had 9 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 of 11 from the floor, and 3 turnovers. Terrace Reed Jr., not a whole lot there for Reed Jr. He had 3 turnovers. Namari Burnett, they went to him twice late in this game. He had both of his shots blocked, 7 points, 5 boards for Burnett. And then Cheddar, they're not getting much from Will Cheddar, I would say, unfortunately. I'd say obviously. 5 points, 4 boards, and an assist. Yo-Yo got in there, the Michigan second-year player. Nothing but goose eggs from Kayat and GW3, close to the Potomac River, George Washington was back there in Maryland. But I can't lie. Nothing in 9 minutes of play for GW3, but goose eggs. So that is it when it comes down to the box score. Couple here on the feedback. I'll just take a couple. Mr. Smith is back. He would give Howard at least one more year to see if he can turn it around. Well, I think that is to be determined. We're making a decision here on January the 11th, a little bit early. But, that's the trajectory right now of where this is headed. I do think seeing Ward Manuel and how patient he was with Jim Howard. You could say that's apples and oranges, but knowing that he was at least patient with the Michigan man in Jim Harbaugh, maybe he would show that same patience with Juwan Howard. I would think how the team responds the rest of the season. I don't think it's done. I like people like wanting to, this isn't, happening during the season again, unless there's something, chaotic that happens that, he will get a chance, as brutal as it may be. And it is watching this team. I think he's undecided right now. I would hope that he's undecided. If he's sitting around like, bringing it back no matter what, that would be, either way, he gone. Um, you know, so, you saying you would give him at least one more year. Okay. There were a lot of people that, that wanted Jim Harbaugh gone. And, there would be some people saying, hey, how about one more year? And it worked out. Now, I don't know, like, and I do feel like, football just won the national championship. Should that affect basketball? Not necessarily. But Michigan just won the national championship. Like, and again, there's still a lot of play. I would say right now that I would lean towards looking for another coach if I was Ward Manuel sitting around. But you have a lot more to play here. So let's see if this continues to spiral downward or if they show a heartbeat, all of that. So that's it. Blue can't get over TW2's breakdown in the Natty. He means NIT. Yeah, well, that wasn't very good, but you know what? He has come back and he has played well this year. Blank name is talking football. We're going to get to that tomorrow. So we will do that. I knew Mr. Smith wants to know about Howard's recruiting class. Howard's recruiting class is right here. I have it. Let's see. Here it is. Darrell Brooks out of Grand Rapids. He's a 3-star, 4-star Christian Anderson, 5'11" point guard, close to a top 100 player out of Atlanta, Georgia. And then Connie Ruth's a 4-star swing forward, 6'8". He is number 33 overall, playing down in the Sunshine State at IMG. He's the jewel there, taking a look at least at the rating. So, it's a pretty good recruiting class. Good point, Mr. Smith. That will be taken into consideration, won't it? I think the other thing, just combining what Mr. Smith is talking about and then blank name talking about in football, he's just talking about NIL. Now, basketball and one and dones in NIL, Michigan, if they were able to promise an NIL like their future Big Ten brethren, USC, who was able to get Collier, the point guard, if he was on this team, things could look a lot different. So there are some factors that go into what Mr. Smith is saying. All right, that's going to do it. Let's, before we leave, we do want to look at the upcoming schedule for Michigan, and that is brought to you by the aforementioned Maize and Blue Reviews Good Afternoon Michigan Football and Basketball, which comes your way 3 times a week at 2 o'clock. Tomorrow is Friday, and it'll be on this very feed that you're watching or listening to right now. All right, the new year has not been kind to Michigan. They lost to Minnesota. They lost to Penn State on Sunday, and now tonight to Maryland. Michigan's next game is going to be on 1:15. That's coming your way, a noon start. against Ohio State. I thought that was Monday. It was 1:15 Monday. I'm just going to have to check here. It is a noon start on a Monday. Do we have a holiday? I don't know. What holiday is it? It's MLK. It's the Martin Luther King Jr. Day all day long. So that's Michigan playing on the holiday at noon against Ohio State. That will be your next game coming up. The Wolverines and Buckeyes. Hopefully, you'll be able to hear at the Chrysler Center just like football, as Michigan will take on the Buckeyes. So that will do it. There is the upcoming schedule. Michigan loses this one 64-57. Just like Sunday against Penn State, they give up a double-digit lead that they had earned in the first half in the second half and go on to lose. Michigan falls now to 6-10 on the season. They have lost 5 in a row. They are 1-4 in Big Ten play. The Terps, they get their second Big Ten win in 5 tries, so they're 2-3, and their record is 10-6. Thanks so much for watching and listening, everybody. Talk with you tomorrow at 2:00 right here on the Maize and Blue Review.